I'm here.
What's up, Dave?
What up?
I don't know how you wake up this early, as I was saying. It's a nightmare to wake up at any time before 11 on a weekend.
Well, I mean, if I was working this weekend, I pretty much would have been up when we stopped playing games last night.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I mean, we went to bed at 3, I think. I felt like absolute dog shit waking up this morning. My body is not made for anything before, like, realistically, like 9:30. Especially going to bed that late, but anyway, Dave, I think we're going to do this kind of the same way that we did with Matt, only the difference is you can afford a webcam, whereas Matt can't. So I kind of want to take it back. So the way I want to do this was when I originally started the podcast with the boys is I want to do a big podcast eventually with everyone, obviously.
Mhm.
But I want everyone, like viewers, to kind of get to know everyone beforehand. You know what I mean? So when we
Sure.
do a big one, like no one's like, oh, who's that? So you and I have been, it's wild now to think about it, but you and I have been friends for 4 years ever since you came in Discord that one time with Matt. Um, but out of everyone, I think I know, well, besides the Italians, I know the least about like your beginning life and like where you got to now. Because honestly, I think you're kind of everyone's North Star in the sense of you accomplished quite a bit in the sense of life, I guess you could say, owning a house. I mean, just jobs and stuff that you've done. So you want to start from like what your upbringing was like, and then kind of we'll move to like the other stuff that you did.
Sure.
Yeah.
Unlike Sprague, I had a pretty normal childhood, I would say. Like, loved by my parents. They both
Right.
were still together. They, you know, cared about me. Uh, I was a nerdy kid all throughout elementary school, high school for sure. Like,
Really? Were,
an-
were you one of
anything
those
less
big
than,
readers as a kid? You were like one of
oh
those
God,
big.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Read a lot. Like, going back to like grade one, I remember my dad, he would make me read like every second that I was not in school. Like, there was no free time. If it wasn't sports or hanging out with the family, it was you're reading. Grade one, they like,
Right.
so go ahead.
What was your dad? So like in our family, our mom was very like school oriented, and our dad was the opposite. He was like, of course, do well in school, but I'm all sports. Was it kind of that same dynamic, or was your dad like kind of everything in that regard?
They were both because like my parents actually didn't graduate high school, so I think they put a
Wow.
lot of pressure on wanting to have the same childhood that they kind of had.
Right.
My mom, she came here when she was 3 years old from Portugal, had six siblings that she was older than, so
Wow.
she was like a babysitter. She kind of was forced to drop out of high school at like grade 11 to take care of her family to help her mom. My dad, kind of same thing. His parents divorced when he was in grade 10. He kind of had to drop out to help his mom pay for things.
Wow.
So we're both very hardworking individuals to get to where they've come to give me a life that, was pretty easy by
In
most
comparison,
standards.
right? And then you have a brother. I forget, is your brother older or younger?
He's 2 years younger.
Younger, right? Gotcha.
He's a
Okay.
little shit. Yeah.
So relationship with your brother, because I'm pretty close with my siblings. Same with you?
Mhm. Uh, Not that way in the beginning. I say we probably didn't start getting along until I moved out.
Oh, really?
Like living together with somebody who kind of has the same energy as me, and we only had one Xbox, so we had to get a shared Xbox with someone.
Yeah, that's
It's my
rough.
turn on the Xbox. Just quick left elbow right there, and like,
Yeah.
no, get off. Yeah.
Were you
Um,
were you someone that would fight with your brother physically, like physical fight, or not really?
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, not like all out like, trying to hurt each other, but you
Right.
give him a little jab in the chin there. See, make sure he's still awake.
My brothers and I, everyone goes through their WWE phase, right? And we
Sure.
used to have a trampoline. We would wrestle on this trampoline like all day because, as you know, and I've definitely told the story before, my parents didn't allow us to have TV on weekdays because it was like Auschwitz, as you know. So
Yeah.
it was tough to like the only thing we could do was play outside. And my Kenny would do this thing where he would just like heel slam, like he'd sit on the ground or like on the trampoline and like heel his way to like almost like an axe. And dude, I would have bruises all up my legs. Like that's the kind of shit. That's the kind of violence that we had. Not like crazy fighting. Right? No one was knocking each other
Yeah.
out. But
No. Yeah,
but
my brother had I don't even remember who got mad at who the one day, but this little fatty picked me up and put me on his back in like a Brock Lesnar F5 type thing, and he accidentally dropped me, but I landed on like a metal pole, and I think I blacked out for like
Wow,
a couple
really?
seconds and then woke up and he's like, "Just hit me." And your brother's like, just hit me. Please don't tell mom. Just hit me. Just hit.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that trampoline,
So,
I just remember that trampoline was made up like you have that metal ring, dude. The amount of times we would hit our heads on that, like it's surprising we don't have like mental issues, like legit.
well, yeah.
So okay, so you and your brother, so you moved out in 18, but like I kind of want to go through high school because those are like the important years, especially since Matt gave us his and his are wild. So were your high
They're
school
not
years
wild though.
Matt Sprague's? You don't
I,
think Matt's were?
no, I mine,
Oh, you're.
mine were not
Oh
wild.
yeah, but different.
My
We all have our
comparison,
different experience,
normal.
right? So, sports, like obviously you were in sports your whole life. High school is when it probably started picking up, where it's like the skill gap between like grade school and then right to high school. Because I know you played hockey. Give me the years on that, because hockey to me is one of the hardest sports to play, if not the hardest.
Hockey, I played pretty much since I was 3 years old
Wow.
up until college, but I never really played at the highest levels. Like, there was a few competitive leagues below like the AAA, like the guys that are like looking to get drafted,
Right.
and I was usually around the single A, double A kind of leagues, and I was never the tallest or the fastest. I was kind of like a high hockey IQ kind of guy.
Right.
So you put me on your team to set up somebody else, but I would say it kind of tapered off a little bit in high school. We had some. My high school was kind of gifted with the people that we had, so my playing time definitely got shifted a little bit more to third, fourth line bench. Like there were a bunch of NHL players right now in the NHL came from like my high
Really?
school, so
Wow. Yeah, that's
they
amazing.
were better than me. There's no getting around that. I wasn't gifted that way.
Gotcha. I was gonna ask because I know hockey, but not like to the point where I could easily like I can barely keep up with a puck on TV. But like they talk about the difference between like high school, college, and like professional sports, especially when it comes to football. Is it kind of like that in hockey? Like there's just this giant gap from like NHL to college.
I would say so for sure. This, realistically, if I kept playing, I probably could have played like a fourth line at some college somewhere.
Right.
Fourth line being the guys who are only getting like 7 minutes of play time a night. But that would have been like you're getting killed. Like these guys, you need to be like the number one player on the first line to even be considered to play in the NHL. Like
Right.
there's just such a gap.
Now, okay, here's a question for you. So, like, at a certain point in your hockey career, there's a point where you're like the big guy. At what point did it like, oh shit, you know what I mean?
I was never the big guy.
Never.
I was
Wow.
always like five. Like I didn't get a growth spurt until grade 9. So I was tiny, tiny, tiny. Got a growth spurt. I'm like, ooh, I was like kind of tall for like half a season because I think I grew a bit earlier than some people. And then I maxed out at 5'10", and some of these guys I'm playing against are 6'3",
Right. Big
245
muscle.
in,
Yeah.
in,
Yeah.
in grade 10, right?
Jeez.
So these
So,
guys were full tilt hitting each other, and it's like, that didn't feel too good.
yeah, right. So Michael, my youngest brother, he does the football story. He decided he wanted to do football freshman year. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen Michael, but Michael's the complete opposite of me in the sense that we call him Submachine Gun Kelly because he has that same frame. And Michael
Yeah,
was like, I'm gonna go out and try football. Literally, like the first day he gets hit, he's like, I'm done. So that's what I
yeah.
mean. Like you don't realize the second, like when someone bigger hits you like that. And I never really played tackle sports or anything that was that physical. I was more of soccer and basketball and track in high school. So
Mhm.
I never got hit like that, So my brother, Michael, is probably 50 pounds less than me. Once he got hit by someone that was bigger, he was like, I'm good, you know?
I will say I think like hockey, um, getting hit in hockey didn't really, even if somebody was like 50 pounds bigger than me, it didn't really bother me that much. You got pads.
Right.
You learn how to take a hit so that it doesn't really impact you that much.
That makes sense.
And some of these guys that are throwing their weight around don't even know how to throw a hit, so it's kind of
Yeah, I know there's a
that way.
certain technique to that. Um, so you go through high school. So what made you stop? Just because you want to do something else, or was it just
Uh,
I'm not at that level where I can take this any further?
oh, I knew I wouldn't be able to take it any further. Like honestly, I was having more fun playing like house league with all my friends, like because we all played hockey together. So it's like, hey guys, let's not actually take it competitively anymore. Let's just go score 13 goals a game, like against a bunch of people who literally have their skates tied backwards. So once the fun kind of died out, because once you hit a certain age, they don't have house league or anything like that anymore. So you got to play
Injuries
like
too.
men's league pickup.
Yeah.
Um, and the last time I tried to play men's league, I went out and like I'm just gonna have a nice like good game of hockey. And there's a bunch of like it's like when I was like 20. There's like a bunch of 35-year-old guys trying to rip people's helmets off and like sucker punch them. Like
Yeah.
they could have made it to the NHL if they just were a little bit better. Like shut up.
There's always that one guy. There's always that one
Oh,
guy. If you have a couple,
there's
you're
a
like,
whole
oh.
league full of people.
uh, what about injuries? Did you ever have any major ones or not really? I think we talked about this, but you got
I'm
pretty unscathed.
playing like soccer, hockey, and like weightlifting my entire life. I'm kind of shocked I've never had anything major happen. I think the worst thing I ever had to happen was like snowboarding. I broke my tailbone. I didn't
Oh,
even know I broke my tailbone until after. I just kept falling on it, and I'm like, this fucking hurts. This hurts. This hurts. Like I was learning how to snowboard,
right.
and I just kept falling on my ass over and over and over again. I'm like, man, this sucks. Then I woke up one day and my back was like completely black. Like, oh yeah, you've
Oh,
cracked it.
really? You knew
Yeah,
from the
yeah,
bruising? Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, I fortunately got out unscathed. I never really had any injuries except for this rotator cuff is partially torn, and then the other one's like I tore my labrum. So the labrum, as
Okay.
you know,
Yep.
as our
Yep.
viewers, like it holds the joint in, like kind of in place. So I have what's called a slap tear in there, and that really, like to this day, that hasn't healed. I probably should get surgery, but it's not enough where I'm like, because I know guys that have had shoulder surgeries and their shoulder was never the same afterwards, and that's not what I
Sure.
want. So
Yeah.
luckily with sports, knock on wood, I haven't had any severe injuries from hits or whatever. Concussions, sure, but
Yeah.
yeah, you just kind of walk it
So
off.
there's a
You know?
bit of CTE here. Who
Yeah.
knows? Like,
Who cares? Who cares? So, did you like hockey or soccer better? Because I know you played soccer, well, with
um,
Mason and all those guys. So,
it's hard to say. I had a lot of fun in both. There were times where I liked one more than the other, but I mean, I played both of them concurrently, like my entire life. Like during the summer, I'd play summer hockey, which was just like
oh,
very
really?
infrequent, but I'd still play hockey in the summer. And then I played soccer, and then in the winter, I'd play indoor soccer, and then still hockey. So there was never a time where I wasn't really playing both. Um, and ironically, I was probably better at soccer than I was at hockey. But my dad definitely wanted me to play hockey more than he wanted me to play soccer. That's for sure.
Was your
Like
mom the opposite? Because she comes from Portugal.
my mom didn't care. She
Okay.
stopped going to my sports because I was a scrappy hockey player, scrappy soccer player. Like
Right.
there was brawls and too many games for her.
Right. That's a tough schedule. So you did both at the same time, but or was it like was it more of like an overlap, or was it just soccer and then right to hockey season? Because right,
Oh,
or opposite.
they both overlapped a bit
Damn.
for sure.
Yeah, luckily I never did any sports at the same time in the sense of like, so we would have beginning of the year, school year was soccer, then basketball in the middle, and then track towards the end. So I was always in a
Right.
sport, but no overlap, which was nice because I was not the strongest of students. So for me, it was like if I had even less time, there's no way I would have graduated high school because I was never good at math. Math was the one that would always fuck me, and any foreign language, like you might as well, it's gibberish to me. So
Well, you can't speak Spanish? Come on.
dude, I failed Spanish every year from fourth grade to when I graduated grade school, and then in high school I had to take Latin because
Oh, yeah.
my mom was like, "Oh, it'll help you with the SATs." Bullshit. There's no.
Bullshit.
I
It
never
didn't do
understood.
nothing.
Yeah, it was like, Mom, this is horseshit. So I took that for two, and then after that I didn't have to do it anymore. And then I graduated with my degree in psychology, so I never needed it in college either. So luckily, luckily I passed everything, but math was always an issue for me. So to do multiple sports at the same time, I would have no time. And when I was a freshman, sophomore, I don't know if you know this, but I was a transfer to Immaculata, how I know Matt Nee and Alan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they're in Kenny's class. That's how. So I was a junior when they were freshmen, so it just kind of worked out that way. I went to an all boys school before that, and I would have to take the train every morning. So I was on the train schedule. Dude, if I got detention, I wasn't getting home till like 8 o'clock. And then you want to tell me, oh, a second sport? Like, there was no way I was getting it done.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
So I'd have to wake up at like 6:30 for the train. So if I went to bed at 2, I'm waking up at 6:30. My parents were like, yeah, you're basically killing yourself at 15. It's time to change schools. And Immaculata, the school that my brother went to with all those guys, is 5 minutes away. So that was the difference. My parents didn't want me to go to co-ed school because they were like, it's a distraction. I was like, yeah, that's the distraction.
It is. It is a distraction, but like it's a necessary one to improve our social ability.
Yeah, yeah, that's
So,
true.
but
Yeah,
I mean, you get a lot of these. I feel like so many of these young kids I see nowadays. Like when I worked at Good Life, we used to run this like teen fitness program. So if you were under the age of 17, you get a free gym membership for the summer. So all these kids would come in. They couldn't even look you in the eye to have a conversation
yeah.
to sign up for this membership. I'm like, hey, little buddy, I need you to fill out this paperwork right here, and then I need you to sign at the bottom in cursive writing. Oh, oh try
Cursive.
what you mean, sir?
Yeah,
Brother, like my dad when I was in like grade 1 and 2 of the summers would force me to write the cursive alphabet 100 times over every single day during the summer until
wow.
it kind of sunk in. Then, thanks, Dad. What am I using cursive for now? Like we don't
Yeah,
we
we
don't
don't
use
use
it
it.
at all.
I only write in cursive. I actually can't do print anymore. That's how much. So I went to private Catholic school my whole life, as you know, and dude, I remember the books that the nuns would give us. That was like the traceable script. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
dude, it was like I can't do print anymore. My print is like people are like, "Are you disabled?" And then I show them my script, and they're like, "Oh," you know. So it's weird.
It's for me. It's weird because I like kind of, and I know Melissa's the same way. We kind of like adapt a half printing, half cursive. Like it looks printed, but then you look, some of the letters are connected to one another, and it's
Yeah,
like you just don't.
yeah. But
It's weird. Weird how our brain works.
so let's go to your fitness stuff. So we're post high school. Did you go to college, Dave?
Yes, I did.
You did, and then
Yeah.
graduated with your degree
Uh,
in.
it was just general business and business finance.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So at what point are we going into the fitness industry? When are we becoming a trainer?
Um, that was so after college, I moved to Guelph. Melissa and I got our first place together. Did a bunch of different general labor jobs. And then when we had our break, I moved back to London. I said, what kind of job would be fun to do? So I'm like, oh, Good Life, cool. Started working at Good Life just at the front desk. Uh, Got pretty knowledgeable about training and whatnot. I wanted to train for a bit. Switched over to being a trainer. It actually didn't last that long. Actually working for them as a trainer, I'd probably say it was only like 8 months to a year working for them. But then I kept training like friends and stuff on the side outside of Good Life
Right.
because the worst part about the actual training wasn't training. It was that you were basically a glorified salesperson.
Yeah.
It's really hard to sell people on 90 to $110 an hour for training. I'm
Right.
like, dude, just slip me a 30 bill after this, and
Yeah, we're good.
I'll run you
You
through a
know,
workout. Like
yeah, that's how it is here in America too. Like everyone, so I've been at a YMCA pretty much my whole life. That was the one that I started at. They had that same thing you were talking about, where if you're under a certain age, there's like a certain program. That's actually how I started, and well, technically that's not true. I used to go with my dad when I was 7. We had to lie about my age, but uh, so that's what got me into kind of fitness of like every day after school I would go to the gym, and that's where I started essentially, and then I learned from the guys there. So same concept sort of in the sense of well, I don't know where I'm really going with this, but like I just remember that the trainers, because now that I know them, I know everyone at my gym. They call me the mayor there. So they were always telling me the YMCA takes so much from people, from like let's say I'm a trainer and I'm
Yep.
training someone. It's 110, as you said. I think it's the exact same price, and it's like, oh, I only get $20 out of this, and
Yeah,
then you have
100%.
it doesn't make sense. Not to mention, to get your certification, which I tried to do, It's like $600 here in America just to get the certifications,
Mm.
and then to get the better certifications, it's even more, right? You have to take it every two
Thankfully
years.
for Good Life, if you were employed by them, they would pay for all that.
Oh wow, that is
So that
nice.
was nice. Then I got my CanFit Pro certification and a few other ones, but having them pay for it was definitely nice. But yeah, like if you're talking about when I started like actually like working out, it was probably my dad would make me work out when I was like 12. He's like, you got to be stronger to play hockey. You got to hit
Yeah.
people real hard. Like, okay, well, it's not gonna make me grow taller, Dad. Thanks though. But pretty much high school, me and two of my closest friends, we started at like 13 every day after school, like you said, like walk over to this gym that was the 30-minute walk away, work out for an hour and a half, ego lift everything we possibly could. Um, Worst form ever, but like we didn't really talk to anyone. So apart from like watching YouTube videos online, like Greg Plitt and all those guys, like
Yeah.
those were kind of what we grew up on. Um, didn't really realize how prevalent gear was, and not knowing that
Yeah.
hey, these guys are working out at this kind of rate and recovering immediately because they're on something. Didn't really realize that till later on in my life. Thank God we're resilient at 13 and we can
Yeah.
bounce back from any kind of workout or injury. Dude, I do too hard of a workout now. I'm out for 3 days. Like my legs are wobbly as shit.
Really? Yeah.
It's bad.
I would say I only go probably like 80%. I don't max anything out anymore. As you know, with the infamous deadlift, I haven't deadlifted since. My back, like whatever I did doing that, my back's like, I can still deadlift, but I can't come near what I was doing before. So I screwed something up. But then I'm like, do I have to deadlift? And I don't really want to. It's not worth injuries to me at this point. I'm at that age. But
For sure.
I've definitely scaled it back a little bit. But my question to you is like, so you're working out with friends. There's usually a point when you're working out with friends where you're like, I want to take this to the next level, and I kind of have to leave you guys behind a little bit. Was there ever a moment of that for you, or were you all on the same page?
In high school, like the guys that I was working on back then, there was one guy who's just a genetic phenom. Like he put on,
There's always
we
one.
we did the exact same workouts, ate the same food. He put on an absurd amount of muscle, and like lean, lean, lean. This
Wow.
guy never put on fat. He was a freak. So if anything, he kind of actually left me in the dust, which really pissed me off. I think like ego wise. So I'm like, I'm doing the same things as you, but that one was a little tough pill to swallow. He's still like at 32, like absolutely diced up. Looks like a
Really? Wow.
fucking yeah.
Is he taking anything, or I'm sure he probably is
No,
now.
he
Really?
he was he was a full blown natty. Like that's why sometimes I am on the side that hey, somebody could be natural because I have seen some of these one-off genetic freaks that can do this.
Like Liver King.
I knew when I said that you were gonna say Liver King, but we're gonna leave that alone.
uh,
Uh,
Cause so when I was in college, so I was kind of like Mike. I had Michael's build up until college. Then I went through a terrible breakup my freshman year, and I put on a lot of weight, like in fat. And like, dude, I was doing like those pints of Ben and Jerry's that you make fun of me for. I was doing
oh
two a
yeah.
day for like 2 weeks. I go home. My dad, I'm cleaning my pool. And my dad's like, "Hey, you're looking a little heavy, dude." That was it. So from freshman year to my senior year, that's when I put on probably about 50 pounds of like fat and muscle. I would be lying if I said it was all muscle, but I was like actually eating a lot healthier. But that was like my turning point. And then when I got out of college, so my senior year, because I stopped going to my school gym and I went to like a public one. So my senior year, I started working out with these guys that were huge. I was like, these are the guys that I can work out with, and I was keeping up with them in weight. I mean, we were, again, to your point, that's probably considered ego lifting in the sense of like that was weight I probably shouldn't have been doing, but I can get it up. And then one day, one of the guys goes, "Hey, what are you taking? Because we're all taking this." I was like, "You guys have been taking stuff? I've been doing this, and you guys, what?" So I that's probably where if I did do some long term damage, that's where it was. And I was naive to
Yep.
steroids back then, so I didn't know who was on what. Like now, a lot of the time, or most of the time, all joking aside, besides like Liver King and whatever, um, I'm pretty good at knowing whether someone's taking something or not. I usually go by
Sure.
by this muscle. That's usually
Little
what.
delts.
Yeah,
You
the
got some
delts.
weird freaky delts. Oh,
Yeah.
why do you have a vein coming out of your delt
Yeah,
right now?
and
Like,
why are
what's
they
going
up to
on?
your ears? So that's usually my indicator. Or nowadays, most people nowadays are pretty comfortable telling, like,
Yeah,
who's not
for
an
sure.
influencer, let's put it that way, are pretty comfortable telling me like what they're taking. And as I said, I know everyone at my gym, so they're not scared to tell me anything. Um,
There's
so
definitely a lot. It's a lot less taboo now than it was like
yeah,
15 years ago.
we're still trying to get
And I
Mike
think people,
O'Hearn to tell us what he's taking, but.
well, Mike O'Natty O'Hearn, but yeah, right. That guy's a joke.
So at what point, Dave, if you don't mind talking about it, when do you start
Yeah.
taking stuff
Um,
and why?
this was first. I think the first cycle I did, I was 25, 26, 25, 25. Um, to be honest, I kind of just wanted to see what it would feel like. Three of my closest friends were like on it, and they were just seemed so happy, and like everything was so easy.
Yeah.
Like we'd do the same workouts, and I'm like limping into work with crutches the next day, and they're just like bouncing around on a
Wow.
treadmill, like, "How you doing, Dave?" So I'm like, you know what? I'll give it a whirl. And I've never done anything like crazy. I've only ever done test, and a bunch of SARMs. I've tried a couple SARMs, but it was tough initially to get over. I hated needles, absolutely hated needles. So when you tell me it's like, oh, you can do this, but you're gonna have to like jab yourself once a week, I'm like, hold on, I can do this, I can do this. I'm an adult, I can do this. Really not that bad at all.
Yeah.
And it, like they said, it felt absolutely fantastic. Like the first time I was on test, it was like, no matter what I did, never be sore.
Dave is not promoting taking tests, but
I'm not. I'm not. Nope.
yeah.
And please consult a physician
Right.
before anything here.
We don't know what you do. we're not.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So what?
uh,
Just because I know people that have taken tests. How much were you taking? And like, tell me the difference between like what you were before and after, like how you felt, all that stuff.
yeah. I was taking. It ramped up. So I was taking a test E, which is test with four different esters in it, and I don't know if you're familiar with the term ester. It's just how long it takes for it to
Right.
release in your bloodstream. So I would be taking about start off around 400 for the first couple weeks to see it ramp up, and then you go up. I think I went up to eventually like 800 milligrams of test
Do you know
per
what you
week.
started at?
400.
Well, I mean,
Oh,
like
you mean
your
my blood
natural. Yeah,
levels? My blood
your
levels?
natural.
Yeah, I was like 3 to 400. So like
Okay.
I was doing all right. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. But in the end, like my blood work was like in the 12, 1300 range. So like it was quite a noticeable difference, especially with like protein synthesis and how easily I was able to recover. Like I could do 3 workouts in a day
Wow.
and I wouldn't feel sore the next day, no matter how hard I pushed the workouts. Um, which was probably the best part about it. I know the first time I did it, I did not optimize anything around eating,
I was gonna
so
ask.
I don't think I maximized my benefits there, like whatsoever. There's definitely more just to test how it would feel, and I really liked it. The only thing I didn't like was after the 12 weeks, you come off and the first week's fine because you still have a bunch in your system. Second week, you start feeling a little weird. And there was a 2-day window before I started taking my post cycle therapy where I thought I had gone through a transition to be a female.
Yeah. Right.
And
Yeah.
my emotions were
Really.
like all over the place.
Dave, do you mind explaining to everyone? Because I only get the gist of things when it comes to that. What exactly is the point for the cycling off, and like what are the limits of what you can take? Just because I know viewers and even me, sometimes I wonder because I know guys that'll take like I know the range of testosterone is like 200 to 1200 to be considered like, oh, you're fine, but anything over that is considered
Mhm.
you're taking performance enhancing essentially, right? That's the way it's kind of been explained to me. So
Yeah, and so like taking like 400 milligrams of test doesn't mean your blood levels are going to be 400 like
right.
nanometer, whatever the measurement is. Anything above like 7 to 800 in your bloodstream is performance enhancing.
Really?
I would say anything above what your natural is performance
Right.
enhancing because you're going to notice that difference like right away. Um, By the time you're done your cycle, like your androgen receptors are just fried,
How
right?
long is
So,
one cycle, Dave, generally?
8 to 12 weeks.
Okay, wow.
People, like if you're just doing a TRT dose, like I could have done a lesser dose of test. You can, shouldn't, but you can stay on that entire life. Like there's guys on TRT that are doing a 2 to 400 milligrams of test a week for the rest of their life. You don't necessarily need to cycle off of that unless you're noticing some massive side effects. But for me, who just wanted to try a cycle, you
Right,
do your 12 weeks, you come off, you let the test kind of lower out of your system,
right.
and you take a post-cycle therapy, which
Dave, can I ask you a
basically
quick
just,
question though?
yep,
So,
fine.
so the way I was told is like, let's say I'm 400 and I go up 400 and I'm still within that 800, like I'm still within
Mhm.
natural ranges. You don't have to cycle off. Is that true? Because you're still within the ranges
It's
of.
tough because if you've never done it before, you don't know what kind of side effects you're going to be in for.
Gotcha.
Um, and some people like it aromatizes differently, so you're going to get a lot more estrogen in your blood than you are actually test. Aromatization's a really big thing. Some people that is just a genetic difference. Like I was quite lucky; I didn't deal with any of that. Um, mind you, the stuff I had was pretty high quality. It was lab grade,
Right.
thankfully. I didn't deal with any gyno. I had no acne.
Oh,
I didn't
wow,
have
really?
any of the typical side effects that you would get. I had some mood swings and basically felt like I was on Viagra my entire 12-week cycle. That was about it.
Right.
Um,
And then the post cycle. So how's that work? Is that that's not the same amount of time, right? You're not doing that for 8 to 12, are you?
no, for me, so you wait the 2 weeks, then you take it for about four, and then as long as you're good, you can stop taking it at that point.
Gotcha.
Um, so the stuff that I was taking was tamoxifen,
Yeah.
also known as Nolvadex. Uh, it's typically given to breast cancer patients. Don't ask me why. I don't know that side of it, but it basically just restarts your nuts to start producing its own testosterone again.
Gotcha. So what about SARMs? Like what? First off, I just know so many. I know SARMs are pretty bad for your liver because I know a lot of kids that I shouldn't say a lot. I know a few kids that took them in high school, partied in college, and had some really bad issues because their liver couldn't process alcohol anymore.
Mm.
So I always feel like SARMs are a little more dangerous than people realize in that regard. Would you say that's true
Or
or?
for sure,
Okay,
because I think people have this misconception that's because a SARM is not as potent as a steroid doesn't mean the side effects are as bad. And no matter what SARM you're taking, if it is a selective androgen response modulator, you are going to have testosterone suppression. And with that, you're going to notice the side effects of, again, your nuts are going to shrivel up and not produce anything. A lot of people don't actually know how to tell either if they're being suppressed. For me, it was pretty obvious. I'm like, I'm really extra emotional today, and I don't know why.
like the guy in the longest yard who's like, oh.
Yeah, yeah, his tits were soft. Yeah,
Yeah, he's
that's
like,
not
why
good.
do my
Like, that's
nipples
not good.
hurt? So, and
uh,
then, so are SARMs the same like time frame for, with testosterone? Like, is it the 7-12 or like how's SARMs work?
yeah,
I don't know much about it.
I've done a couple different 8 week cycles. I've done a couple 12 weeks. Um, and there's a lot of ones that are linked into SARMs that aren't actually like that won't suppress your testosterone because they're not, even though they're in the same sold as a SARM, it doesn't actually do the same thing.
Right.
Like MK677, which is like a human growth secretagogue, so it tells um, your body to release more IGF-1. So that way, it's not growth hormone in and of itself, but it's telling your body to release
Just
more.
more. Gotcha.
So there's no actual,
You're
it
not
doesn't
adding
impact
anything to
your
you.
hormones or anything.
Right.
Yeah, it's still sold as a SARM. So
So,
there are some that.
so Dave, for our female viewers, because we actually do have quite a bit of female viewers, what are they taking? Because because there's some women at my gym, my new gym. I don't know them, but they're clearly on something. How does testosterone affect them differently? Because I know they're getting. Do they have to cycle off or no?
I mean, unless they want like giant clits and uh,
Ew.
yes, I would. But typically they're not taking test. Typically you're going to see them on lower doses of Anavar than like what a male would take.
Really? Okay.
That is the common female steroid.
Gotcha.
Some will take Winstrol. I've seen some that take Primo, which is basically like a testosterone, like you take it in conjunction with testosterone. But they need way less than what we do. Also, because their aromatization, being
Right.
women and having more estrogen, is a lot more harsh, so they can get a lot worse side effects. That's why you're going to start to see them with those hoarse voices,
Right.
basically.
Oh, that's what causes it. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, because there's a woman at my gym who literally I thought was a man talking to me. She was like, "Hey," and I turned around and I'm like, "Jesus." So there's a couple of those there.
Yeah, it definitely tricks you when there's like a pretty attractive like bikini competitor who's like really jacked but has a voice like that, but then you sleep with her and then you hear her saying your name. It's kind of weird. There's all kinds of weird boners at that point, but it is what it is.
So, Dave, what's the difference between testosterone and tren?
Ooh, so tren is like testosterone on testosterone.
Right. That's what I've
Um,
heard, but no one's ever given me like an explanation on.
it's just the compound itself is extra androgenic, so it is going to bind to those receptors and like redline them. So
Really?
it's gonna redline your every kind of androgenic response you're gonna have in your body just to the max, which for some people who can handle it, that's why it is the best compound out there, and you're gonna get the most gains. You're gonna get leaner. Um, then there's other people who get like trend cough. You can't sleep. Your
Right.
mood swings are insane. Um, Trend, I don't think I would ever try it. I think it's far above what I deem safe to use. I don't
Gotcha.
think I personally would use anything more than test, just because I'm, still more of a natural kind of, not natural anymore. But I
Right.
haven't taken anything for like 3 years now, so I'm natty again.
Yeah, I would, for me, just from a medical standpoint, I wouldn't consider testosterone a performance. I know it is, but like from the standard of like, there are people out there that just like once you're after older than 40, it's probably a good idea just to get on it, right?
Sure.
So, I don't personally consider it a PED until you're in like those crazy red lines, as you said, but
Mhm.
or over the um, required amount or like maximum amount. But to your point of trend, like I know a guy that's on trend that he's like, I've had a lot of problems, but I love being big. And I go, is that worth it? How many years of your life are you
Oh,
taking off? Dave, how do you know if you're good with it or not? Like in the sense of how do you know, like let's say I got on trend tomorrow, how do I know that I'm good with it or not good with it?
at the end of the day, like if you're not noticing you're feeling bad at all, definitely blood work is going to be the king. You're going to
Right.
notice liver levels, kidney levels, lipids. They're going to be all out of whack. If your body's not good with it, you could still feel fine. But your
Really?
body might be like just dying on the inside. So I think a lot of these kids that are doing these SARMs are doing a very big disservice to their future
Right.
because they have no idea what's going on inside of them. They're like, oh, well, I got a little bit of acne. And that's all you can see on the outside.
Right.
Um, yeah, I think I don't know why. Like Canada is actually kind of difficult to just go get your blood done. Like I have to pay like a good amount of money just to get blood work. Like
Really?
my doctor would let me go get blood work, but nothing that would show like hormone levels and whatnot. Like I had to pay for that separate out of pocket, send my blood away
Right.
to get it checked, which was really annoying. But I know in the States with all these new TRT clinics just popping up, and you could just go in and say you're tired and get testosterone off the street right now.
Right. Well,
It's
that
very
that more
easy
plate.
to go.
Oh, sorry. That more plates, more dates guy. He's got his own thing that
Yep,
I just give my blood work to him and he would
Eric
send it
Health.
to me. Yeah, I don't know his main name, but or his company, but I just know that they do that. So like
Yep.
to your point, when I go to the doctor, unless I'm actually asking for my testosterone to be checked or
Hmm.
like blood levels, they'll only give me like the bullshit stuff, like how's your magnesium? Like
Yeah, for
like
sure.
I don't need that. That's not why I'm here. I was doing thyroid checks because we found out recently that we have like a thyroid issue in our family, like
Hmm.
genetically. None of us have it, but we just did a check, and I was like, "Oh, let me see my testosterone." It's not even on there, so I was like, "Ah, shit."
Like I said, I was really lucky. I never had any side effects with anything I've taken, and my blood work has always come back good. Um, which sucks in a sense because it makes me want to push the envelope more. It's like, well, if I
Right.
could do this and I'm fully safe, like how far can we go with it? And yeah, don't get me wrong, I've thought about trying trend before, but at the same time, like
The
don't want to end
risk.
up punching someone at work for no reason. Like, just
Yeah.
you looked at me the wrong way, swift
Yeah.
elbow into the side of the head. Like,
Yeah. For someone who knew, you would recommend testosterone. Jeez, go
uh,
right to Tren, guys.
you just go right to try and see what happens. Like, I would recommend doing nothing until you've maxed out your natural gains, and I will always
Gotcha.
stand by that.
Gotcha.
Um,
I've always wondered what your
until
answer to that
you've
would be.
until you've done, I'd say like 5+ years of training and having your diet honed in,
Yeah, that's my
there's
problem.
no reason to add. You have no idea what your actual limit is. So you're just trying to see, oh, what's beyond my natural limit? Well, you don't know what your natural limit is. So,
Yeah, I would also say, because I've had some kids come up to me and ask me like, "Hey, what do you recommend?" And I'm the worst person to ask because I don't take anything. But to
mhm,
me, it's like you got to know what your goals are. If your goal is to get bigger, like for me, I really just go to the gym to clear my head. I got a lot of stress,
mhm,
Dave. You know this.
yeah, it's a mental
So
health thing.
yeah, so for me, I don't. When I look at my muscles, I'm like, oh, this is just stress over the years. Like of course, I'm proud of them, but like, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh man, this has been quite a ride. So to me, when people ask me what should I take or what's the safest to take, first off, I say I'm no expert, of course, because I'm not. But I would say it really depends on your goals. For me, my goal is not really to get to this massive size. My goal is just to kind of clear my head and whatever happens, happens. But
Mm.
if you do go down the road of getting bigger, I would say TRT is probably your best bet.
Yeah, start with
Yeah.
tests because like I would never start with a bigger stack than that because like I was telling Kenny, you start with the one. Then if you wanted to add something later on, you can add something. But that way, at least you have a baseline
Yeah.
to say, oh, this is what's causing this.
Yeah.
Versus if you add three things in at once, you have no way of troubleshooting what thing is causing your issues or why your body's
Exactly.
reacting a certain way. So I definitely would caution against. Listen, don't do steroids, kids. But if prescribed by a doctor and they think it's okay, I wouldn't do anything more than one compound, and that would just be test for
Go
sure.
right to HGH.
Well,
That's safe.
yeah, sure.
Yeah. So when you see a lot of these TikTok kids, and I know you're not on TikTok, you're just not interested in that stuff. But do you think that I always wonder this from like the perspective of someone who did personally train people? Do you think that that's kind of a disservice because a lot of them are saying this is what I do and I don't, and clearly they're taking something. Like there's some guys on there where I'm like, there's no way you're natural, and you're toting that you are natural. Like that to me is like you have no actual training experience. You have no real knowledge except this is what I do. That's my biggest problem with people. Like I was trained by people when I was younger to show me what I was doing. Whereas these guys, it's like I've been in the gym for 1 year. I'm gonna start a TikTok and show you what I'm doing. You know?
hmm
Yeah. And yeah, go ahead. Just because I'm
I
curious on what you think.
I think training has gotten very soft,
Yeah.
and very everyone wants to find the easy scientific route, and nobody wants
Do the work.
like Ronnie Coleman said, everybody wants to be big, but nobody wants to lift no heavy ass weights.
Yeah.
And I don't think the only way to get big is to lift heavy ass weights. But I think pushing when I see people in the gym with a notebook, totally fine if you're going to use a notebook. When I see you writing down that you did a set, if I'm looking at you, you have like 5 to 10 reps left in reserve after you did that set. You did nothing.
Yeah.
Your body, your muscles aren't growing until you at least hit that like let's say 80 to 90% exhaustion
Right.
rate, right? Um, that's just my philosophy, and every philosophy will get you bigger. But I think everyone has become quite soft and a bit of a pussy, and is always trying to find a easy way out.
Yeah.
Um,
Ozempic.
now, sure, yeah, like
Yeah, I always go till failure because I just feel like that's the only way of me feeling accomplished. You know,
yeah, I would caution against going to failure on every set. I think there are some sets you
last
should
set.
go to
Last
failure.
set is the only one that I
Okay,
go to
okay,
failure on.
sure,
Yeah,
yep, then that's fine.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Um,
ladder my weights. That's how I was taught. So like for chest press, for instance, like I'm starting at 60s, 70, 80, 90, and if I'm getting 10 reps on 90, which is pretty rare, that means I should have gone up to 100s. That's the way. Like that's kind of and that's the same
sure, yeah.
philosophy with every workout. Now, as you know, I'm probably considered someone who overtrains because I'm one of those guys that's like, I like doing a lot of different exercises just so I don't get bored, and I do them all in one. But I isolate. So like for me, I'm kind of on like a 6 day rotation. So it's biceps, forearms, then Tuesday would be chest, blah blah blah. So Thursday, Friday, and then Monday, Tuesday would be one full workout cycle. So I've always like some people do the push pull legs.
I'm
I
one of
was
those
never
people.
I was never a fan of that because I just feel like I could do more on push pull leg. Like I feel like it's not enough for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, that's I think um, for a long time, like bro science said, you have to do like 5 to 6 workouts, 3 to 4 sets, 15 to 20 reps of each
Oof.
workout for
Yeah.
one body part. Like that was like when I was growing up, that was the norm. Um, and I know I just criticize people for being too scientific with their workouts, but there is a lot of science in regards to muscle growth and like
Right.
what actually optimizes that. And for what I can read, frequency seems to be like the key determining factor to growth. So I want to be able to hit a muscle group twice in a week versus just once a week. So I'm doing your push pull legs rest, push pull legs
Right.
rest. Um, and I've found that everything I did kind of went up, like my strength, my muscle
Really?
density, like mass. Yeah, everything went up a lot when I started doing that. I did the typical 6 day workout that you were doing before, and I noticed a lot less gains in the areas that I wanted. I guess I'd been training for a long enough time now that I knew what my weak points are. So I really would hammer down like, hey, I know my chest is a weak point for me. I'm gonna make sure that I do chest the first uh, first few exercises during all of my push days and really hammer those home. And hitting it just the twice a week made a massive difference for me.
Really? Wow. Yeah, I'm strong, I would say, but I'm not big. Does that make sense? Like I see these, so I go to
Sure.
a
Yeah.
military gym, and these guys are way bigger than me, but I'm still
Yeah.
doing more weight than them. So I'm like, man, am I doing something wrong? Are they doing something wrong? So,
Oh,
like, I don't know if maybe it's genetic too, because as you know, with my brothers, we just don't have that. Like, we're not really made for size in a sense.
yep.
So, maybe one of these years, I'll try doing the push pull legs for a year and just see how I do, see if I get any real benefits from it. But I'm a guy where, as I said, I wouldn't say I do everything till failure, but I go that my last set on everything is usually till failure. And I always felt like I needed a little more recovery time. So like I take Saturday, Sunday, and Wednesday off, but I just do cardio those days. So
Sure.
I have a
Yeah.
treadmill and I'll just run on that, and then abs, of course. But for me personally, diet's the issue. That's my weak point.
It's everyone's weak point.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong. If I when we're watching the fight tonight, I'm probably gonna dummy a bag of chips.
Yeah. So Dave,
Maybe a few beers. Go
can
ahead.
we talk about your diet because
Sure.
I know you've been vegan, right? Vegan for 8 years now. You said.
Um, Started when I was 19,
Oh
32
wow.
now. There was a period in between that I stopped. Um, then I went back on it again. So all in all, at least 10 years.
Wow. Because I'm actually more interested in how that transition was in comparison to transitioning off steroids or PEDs.
Hmm.
Like how was that in the sense of was that easy to do? Would you say or
To start initially, you mean?
yeah, like because
Yeah.
as someone like I tried doing I've tried pretty much every diet at this point. I did military, I did vegan, I did vegetarian in college. For me personally, I felt very weak because I wasn't supplementing. Because back then I didn't know supplementing. So for me, like I couldn't do those. Keto works very well for me. Like if I want to lose 20 pounds in a month, keto works very well for my body specifically. I'd never recommend it to people because I know it's not for everyone, and I think a lot of people will take that as like, oh, I have to be on keto for the rest of my life. Where in reality, it's very dangerous to do that. So I know some people can get away with it, but I can't do that. So for me, I couldn't do vegetarian or vegan because I just never had energy when I did it. So how was it for you? Was it like give me the last
It
10
was
years?
pretty, when I started, it was pretty gradual, right? Uh, I guess, when I met Melissa, I was 19. beautiful blonde woman tells me she's a vegetarian. I'm like, yeah, right. Like I'm never going vegetarian. I like my steak too much. Um, and then we move in together, and I'm like, well, I guess I don't need to buy that steak or that piece of chicken or whatever. So started from there, just slowly transferred to being a vegetarian. Um, and then noticing that the only thing that I was really still eating was the occasional like cheese and whatnot. So back then I wasn't a big egg guy. I was kind of lactose intolerant as it was too. Like my body doesn't do well with
That's how I
lactose.
feel after a pint
So,
of Ben and Jerry's. So I know you're feeling.
so yeah, I stopped. Uh, we stopped doing that altogether. We went vegan. I would say when we initially went vegan, we too much processed food. Like I don't think I knew when I first went how. I was also still kind of picky with eating, so I wasn't eating a lot of vegetables
You're saying
when
the
I was
vegan foods you were eating were processed, or are you saying
yeah.
before? Oh, okay,
Well,
interesting.
just like I'd get like the sidekicks noodle dishes or whatnot, like for a side dish, and those were crap, right? Like
Gotcha.
they're just awful. Versus, you progress time after time. We find some recipes we like, a lot more whole foods. Um, I don't actually like to use the word vegan. I consider myself more of a plant-based person because I think there's
Gotcha.
so much negative connotation around the word. Um, Very preachy people, whatnot. Like, I
Yeah.
don't care what you do. You want me to give you a diet plan with chicken, broccoli, and rice? I can give you a diet plan with chicken, broccoli, and rice. For me, it was literally about finding or taking what I was eating before and just replacing it with a vegan alternative. So it didn't need to be like I can still have lasagna, I can still have chili, I can have tacos, I can have pizza, I can have all these things just veganized, right? I think that's what made it a lot easier in the long run.
Gotcha.
And then I think thankfully too, at the time that I was going vegan and vegetarian, there's been a lot of money pumped into
Yeah.
that sector. So there's a lot of better tasting things coming out now. Like I can only imagine what it was like 20 years ago. Like your choices were probably very limited. You
Yeah.
had some shitty black bean burgers and tofu. That was probably your only two options
That
for
and
stuff, right?
kale. Remember the kale phase?
I love kale. Like I
Oh, do
have
you
kale all the
really?
time.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I used to put
I
it
wouldn't say
in
all the time.
drinks.
We used to. Melissa is a big proponent for kale and smoothies. So she has a kale smoothie every morning.
Wow.
I don't have that dedication to wake up at 7 in the morning and
Yeah. uh, do you? So, from a supplementing standpoint, do you supplement a lot of the stuff that you're missing, or do you feel like you don't need to really do that because you're still hitting all the macros that you need or
if I
nutrition?
go and get my blood work done, my blood work would say I'm well within the normal ranges of everything. Do I supplement still? Yes. I mean, not much. I do a multivitamin once a day. Do some creatine because creatine typically comes from red meat, so I
Right.
don't actually get that naturally. So I do creatine, my multivitamin. I do spirulina to just promote healthy gut bacteria. Just a concentrated green. That's all that is.
Right.
And what's the other thing I have now? Oh, just a turmeric gummy to help with it
Oh, really?
inflammation,
Okay.
which I don't even know if it does, but it just tastes good. So,
No
we
glutamines
take
or
that nice.
anything? Nothing. No glutamine.
Nope,
Oh, really?
nope. Um, then if I like after a workout, I'll have protein shake, but that's about it. Like,
Okay. Oh, so yeah,
and
you're
if I
well.
have food ready, yeah, if I have food ready, like I won't even have the protein shake.
Wow. Yeah, so you got it pretty much down.
Yeah,
Nice. Yeah.
and I go just based off how I feel. Like I feel fantastic. Everyone in Discord calls me 87 years old, but
Yeah.
at
Again,
32, I feel pretty good.
I don't know if for me it's genetics or anything, but to your point, I mean, I'm a little younger, but I don't have any health wise. I'm pretty solid. Like I've gone to the doctor a couple times, and they're like, "Yeah, you're well within good ranges. Blood pressure's good, all that stuff." So that's why I like. I know guys like Sam Solik; those guys have to take. It's almost like a job for them, and the amount of supplements that they take, like 20
Sure,
different pills
yeah.
a day. I
Yep.
I never want to do that. My mom and I were talking about it last week. But the guy Brian Johnson, he's the guy that's doing the. He's trying to reverse his age. Looks
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
like a
yeah,
vamp.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. He looks plastic. Yeah.
yeah. But if he can, everyone makes fun of him. But to me, if you can make that one, if he by the end of his life can make that one pill that kind of is everything in one, I'm all for it. I don't know how far off we are from that, but I would like that than taking 20 different pills in a day like these
Mm.
guys are. So I do feel like, because I truthfully I figured that because of your diet and lifestyle, well, I guess your lifestyle is not too crazy, but I thought you would be supplementing a lot more. Like I thought you were going to be one of those guys that
Oh
takes like
yeah.
20 pills a day. So good for
No.
you.
Literally one handful of pills in the morning and good to go.
Yeah.
I
Well,
sometimes take a fiber supplement too, just because I'm old and Metamucil tastes
I
good.
was gonna
So
say, I was like, is it Metamucil? Yeah,
yeah,
I've heard good
keep
things
yourself
about that.
regular.
Yeah,
I mean, fiber is fucking absolutely fantastic, and
yeah,
science on fiber and people not getting enough. Like, sure, we got guys in our Discord that have never seen like a fibrous plant in their life. Like Jesse
yeah,
Eggleton, he's just shitting liquid out his ass,
yeah,
right? So,
yeah. Well, his whole diet is just alcohol for the most
uh,
part. I don't think he
yeah,
could afford actual food. Yeah, poor Jesse. But yeah, again, it's wild to me how from when I was younger to where the fitness industry is now. Uh, I just feel like the guys went from we had like this upward motion of you had Ronnie Coleman and all those guys who were competing in bodybuilding, so that made sense.
yep,
And then now you have all these guys that aren't competing but are almost the same size or bigger. I mean, very
yeah.
few are
For
bigger than Ronnie, but you know what
oh
I
no,
mean.
nobody's bigger than Ronnie.
Yeah,
Ronnie's a freak.
yeah, genetic
But
freak in every
there's
reason.
some guys out there that it doesn't make sense to me why you're willing to put your body through so much for so little in return.
Yeah,
Um, there's a couple IFBB pros that work out at the gym I work out at, and the one gentleman, he's 50 something years old, and he looks fantastic. Like I would kill to look like he looks like,
at
but
50, yeah,
I can only imagine that, like in bodybuilding terms, 50 is kind of like you're peaking like
yeah,
that's like your time's running out. You don't see many bodybuilders live to the age of 60.
yeah,
um I think people like Jay Cutler are doing it very. I hope people start to follow him a lot more than trying to push the size and the mass way too hard into their. A lot of people blame the steroids for a lot of the stuff, and don't get me wrong, I think it definitely has a lot to do with it, but a lot of these people are dying from heart issues.
yeah,
And I think these heart issues are more of a result of people being 300 plus pounds for 8 to 9 months out of the year. Your body is not meant to be that fucking big and putting
yeah,
all that pressure on your I just can't. I
yeah.
can't fathom that.
The other way is I know some guys that were I wouldn't say close friends, but they knew Joe Aesthetic. He was
Yep.
kind of the opposite in the sense of he was at like a
Stay too
really
lean.
too lean.
Too
Yeah,
lean.
dude, they told me that they like he would wake up, go to the gym, do all of his content, and the rest of the day he would just sleep. He just had no energy.
Yep. Yep.
So
I did hear that too.
yeah, so like that's like the complete it's he wasn't a huge guy, he was very muscular obviously, and I think there was a couple things that unfortunately ended his life, but like that's like the like there's like a middle point, and I think the average person has to be in that middle point, and once that average person starts shooting for the moon going one way or the other, that's where you're going to have those heart issues specifically.
For sure.
So
Yep.
yeah, like what's his name, what's the famous big guy that died and people think it was his wife that did it? I'm struggling.
Rich Piana.
Thank you. Yeah, like same concept. I think his heart just blew out, right? I think that was
Yep.
the.
I mean, it also didn't help that he was doing a bunch of recreational drugs on the side too. So
Oh, was he?
I do like the push by people to say that that was all steroids that he was on. I'm like, okay, well, like the guy literally openly admitted to doing like heroin and
Oh, really?
crack and a bunch of other things like
Yeah, I
that.
didn't really get into fitness until towards the end of his life. So that's when I started following like the fitness YouTubers and well at that time Instagram.
You never did his like 20-hour arm
I
workout?
I
Come on,
never
man.
did that. That was yeah, I never got into that stuff. What kind of turned me off from all the like YouTubers that was my brother would show me the guy that would be like the Smith machine is for pussies. I can't think of his name, but I was like, man, there's some great exercises you can do on the Smith machine. You don't have
Sure,
to.
yeah.
You're not deadlifting on a Smith machine, but like
No.
to say it always scares me when someone says don't do this exercise because it's stupid, right? Like because it's the machine's just for people that aren't men or something like that. That's where I go, oh, these guys are just
It definitely was portrayed like that when we were
yeah,
younger, for sure. Free weights are nothing. Like there's
yeah,
no in betweens. Machines are for pussies. And I mean, if you talk to the bodybuilders of this world, like they will tell you they built their physique with a lot of free weights, like predominantly
Yeah.
free weights. Then they mastered their physique with the machines and everything else after. Like they really fine-tuned everything. Um, as I get older, I'm definitely more of a machine guy. I see all these guys tearing their pec doing a bench press, and I'm like, man, I can't afford to tear my pec. I'm gonna be
Yeah.
off work for way too long. So, definitely moving away from that, and it's been helping. I think
Yeah.
I haven't really dealt with any, again, major issues.
I've been doing more machines as well, given that, like, I used to not really be a machines guy because, as you know, I went to a really nice YMCA, but they didn't have the machines that this new gym has.
Hmm.
And, dude, some of the machines, I'm like, wow, I wish I had this when I was in college or whatever. Like, who knows what I could have done. They got some machines I've never seen before. I couldn't even describe them to you, but they are amazing machines. So I would argue now I'm more of a machine guy than I am a free weights guy. Really, the only thing I do
Especially
free
some of
weights
the
on.
new stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, truthfully, the only thing I really do solely free weights on is, or majority free weight is biceps and forearms. That's really the only thing that I free weight now. So where I feel like I'm getting the most benefit from free weights.
for sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't do many machines for arm day. That's for sure. I still like free weights and feeling the contraction that way, but I definitely do like machines predominantly for a lot of my stuff. I mean, I'm still doing squats free weight. I'll throw in a
yeah.
hack squat after,
I
but
can't squat anymore because of my shoulder, which sucks. I know people are like, do it the front way. It just hurts my collarbones too much. The front squat sucks. I hate it. So now I'll just, I really love the belt squat. I live by that thing.
yeah, I still have not gotten to try one. They don't have one at my gym
Really?
and
Oh,
any
dude,
other
it's
gym that I've been
phenomenal.
to.
Well, if you're ever down here, I'll take you to my gym and you can belt squat with me all day. I'll hold you like this. You know? Yeah, I really do love that machine. That one I do the most, but uh, that's one of those ones where you can put a lot of weight on it. So I do the knee straps for the
Yep,
most part because now, to your point, I'm more um, attuned to like, hey, could this injure me or not? But I feel like if I'm not doing heavy weight on that, I'm not getting much out of it. You can put a
for
lot of
sure.
weight on that thing. Like you don't realize
Yep.
how when you have something on your shoulders, uh, I get maybe it's a nerve thing, like where like you can definitely do more weight on a squat than you can think based on
Oh, for sure.
yeah that
I
the
think people definitely get a little freaked out, like by if I screw up or something goes wrong, like I need to stay 100% perfect or else this
yeah
weight's gonna crush me. Not likely. If you're getting it up and you're taking a couple steps back, you're probably okay. And if you're not just going from 0 to 700 pounds, you're probably okay. Um,
I've seen some people. Right, I think I told you the worst injury I ever saw was the guy that was benching and he just put 405 on and it just crushed his ribs. He had to go to the hospital instantly.
Jeez.
Yeah, that was the worst injury I've ever seen at the gym.
He
Crushed
had
his
like
entire sternum.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
I had a 17-year-old kid when I was at the gym by myself. Uh, Kid looked like a bean pod, and put he only put 225 on the bench, but I'm like, there's no way that kid benched 225. He unracked it, and I'm like, wow, that's impressive. And all of a sudden, I just saw his left arm like go to the ground. Basically, he completely popped his shoulder out,
Oh
and
wow.
that weight just slammed down on him, and he just started screaming at the top of his lungs. And I'm like, okay, I gotta go save this little kid now, like, because he put the clips on too, so that was even
Oh
worse, dumbass.
yeah.
Like,
I never do clips.
you can't, you
Yeah,
shouldn't.
you just can't. So for those of you that don't know how the clips work, because I know we do have some people, so those hold the weights in. If no one's
Mm-hmm.
spotting you and you drop that, you can't slide the weights off, so you're pinned. That
Mm-hmm.
sucks. So a lot of people, you'll see the famous videos of people who like they'll choke themselves on it because it's like,
Yep, yeah.
yeah,
It's like, help,
yeah,
help.
yeah. And then they start convulsing because they're not getting oxygen to the brain, and you're like, oh man. So that's why you never want to bench with clips. Um, but yeah, that's wild to me. But I've seen people put clips on a Smith machine. I'm like, what are you doing?
The machine goes straight up and
I know.
straight
That's
down.
why I'm
What
like,
are you
what?
doing?
Like, it's just basic physics. It's like, come on, you know. But yeah, I love going to the gym, and it's definitely been a lot harder now because I don't have like a friend group at my gym because I moved. So it's a little bit more
kind of rebuilding that community now, though,
Exactly.
right? Like,
But,
yeah.
I'll tell you this. When I was at the Y, because so many people would talk to me, my workouts were like 3 hours. I get my workouts
Hmm.
done in about an hour and a half, and I'm like, what do I do with this extra hour? So now I just do more work. So it's nice to have that little free time. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's one of those things where I know I'm going to be doing it for the rest of my life because I know how well it clears my head. But
Sure.
yeah, I'm not looking to get much bigger than I already am. Like, I don't need to be taking anything. I'm at that point in my life.
Now, this is kind of like a sidetrack, but still along the
No,
same
go
lines.
for it.
Have you seen many of the studies about obviously mental health issues and whatnot are plaguing North America pretty
Oh, yeah,
badly? And
absolutely.
have you seen they've been treating a lot recently men who have these mental health depression and whatnot. They've actually been giving them testosterone and noticing a dramatic shift in their like depression or
Really?
any other mental health issues that they may be suffering from. Reading some of these studies, it's like I don't think they necessarily needed a supplemental testosterone. Would it have been changed if these people who were going through these things, if they were to get better sleeps, go exercise, eat right? We all know that that can have a big impact
Oh,
on our natural
absolutely.
testosterone levels. But once you just add that exogenous androgen in, all of a sudden these people are like completely different people.
Right.
Um, and I just think that's absolutely fascinating and kind of shows how lazy and
Yeah. I think there's a lot to that, but my other answer, not to play kind of devil's advocate, is I don't think you have to add something to it. I think you just have to clean up that diet and sleep. Like, I notice because Matt Spray keeps me up till 4 a.m. now. Like, when I don't get good sleep, which I
like
haven't been,
crap.
I feel like crap. Like, I can definitely see how that would have a mental toll on someone if they're doing that every day. Not to mention, we know how bad processed foods are for you, right? And
Sure.
now everything's processed. So in that regard, like, yeah, of course people are going to have these issues.
It is hard for like somebody who is suffering from depression to take care
Absolutely.
of
So
themselves, and
you're
we
just
know that's the
adding.
biggest
You're
thing.
just adding to a
So
problem.
you're
Yeah.
giving them in a sense, it's like their magic pill,
Yeah.
and the percentages of people it's helping. Like I'm always fascinated by things that I've done, what they're using it for to test other things. Like
Right.
recreationally, I used to take MDMA, and they're also using that to
Can
treat
you
people
explain
with.
what
Go ahead.
MDMA does? Because I've heard the term. I know sort of what it is, but can you explain? Because I know viewers
It's
won't know that.
ecstasy.
Oh, it is ecstasy. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. For it's just more modern day ecstasy. There, you can still there is a slight difference, but it's
Right.
almost indistinguishable. Um, recreationally taking that, and now I'm seeing them treat people with PTSD and
Yeah.
whatnot with MDMA, and I'm like, this is crazy. Like this is something I took to party and have a good time, and they're giving it to people who are on a couch with a therapist
Right.
and letting them kind of it's rebuilding neural pathways, which is
Yeah.
absolutely wild to me. Um,
That's kind of like
that's
why I
like my
take
little
the nicotine. Nicotine does that same thing, just not at that level, right? It's supposed to
little
repair
zins.
the
Yeah.
yeah, it's supposed to repair the axons and neurons in the brain that have been dying over time. But to take it
Mm,
back to what you were talking about, I think it's also kind of laziness because you know how many people I know do like Postmates and stuff. Like, they don't cook their own food, and I'm pro Postmates, and I'm sure it's good for you, but to me that's kind of like, I don't want to say a fast food, but it's like if you're not cooking for yourself and you don't know what's actually in it, uh I feel like that's also gonna, that's almost like the opposite end of, like, you say magic pill, but I say that's kind of taking us the other way, where I think that's processed as well. It has to be if they're delivering it to your door and they have to keep it fresh for a certain amount of time. Who knows what factory that's in before it gets to you. So I think a lot of it in our country is a lot of laziness. I know a lot of people that spend a lot of money on takeout every single night. So
hmm.
to
What's your opinion on like meal prep companies then?
meal prep companies, as long as I know what's in it, that's fine. And again, as I said, I'm not a diet guy in the sense of I'm not no expert, but I know what I'm cooking when I'm home. Like, I know I'll let chicken defrost, rice, broccoli, I'm good. Like, I can do that every day pretty
Mhm.
easily. And when a meal prep company tells me that here's your food, whatever, I have to know what's in it. Like, I'm sure there's preservatives in that. They say they're fresh and whatever, but I have to see where they're sourcing it from. I got to see I don't know if they give the nutritional facts, but I got to see what's in there because I cannot
Sure.
believe that that's any better processed or much better processed than what I would get at the grocery store.
For sure.
I
Yeah.
think the concept is great for people who are incredibly busy, but I still think it's a little bit of laziness to be getting takeout, quote unquote, every night. Right? That's how I see it. Tell me if I'm wrong, though.
Hmm.
You would know better than I do.
Uh, I agree with the sentiment, and it might be laziness, but at the same time, I think if it keeps you on a more regulated schedule, because I think these people struggle with when it comes time to cook. You don't, if you're not a very diligent, motivated person, you don't want to cook things that you don't want at that time.
Right.
Like I don't think anybody's like, oh my god, I can't wait for that chicken, broccoli, and rice. Like, let's be real, it's bland.
Yeah, it
You can add as
sucks.
many seasonings as you want, but if you want to eat it every day, it's hard to get excited about that, right?
Right.
So with this meal prep, it just takes the thinking and the guesswork out of everything.
Right.
I think there are some probably that are better than others.
Absolutely. Yeah. Does Melissa cook or do you cook, or is it?
Both,
Oh,
both.
okay. Because I wasn't sure. Because for me, I'm like, man, I really, if I can get someone to cook for me, like, as long as I know what it is, we're good, you know. So for me, it's just to cook. I know I have to do it, which is why I take the time out of the day to do it. Uh,
Hmm.
but to your point, it's bland. It's not exciting. I'll just do chicken and broccoli and white rice every day.
For sure.
And I'll rotate out meats. So I'll do uh, the ground turkey like you recommended, and then red meat and like ground beef, and then chicken. So I just rotate them essentially.
Okay. Yeah.
So in that regard, like I'll lose weight pretty easily, but then that one UFC 300, your boy's putting down a pint, you know?
All right. I think I'm good.
Yeah. Which dog is that?
Well, I only have the one now. That one's Bear.
Oh, you
He's
only have one. Gotcha. So bear,
Yeah.
and then you have two cats or one cat too.
None right now. We were just fostering, um, and they both have been adopted now. So
Oh, does that I always wonder, does that kind of hurt a little bit when you start getting attached? Because
uh,
for me, like, dude, I get attached to animals I don't even know. Like I'll see one on
well,
TikTok, I'm like, what the fuck?
yeah, definitely. Uh, I get. I would say attached, especially to the ones that we were like rehabilitating.
Right,
So like they were very shy, very nervous.
dude, you're a strong man
So
for doing that. I can't do like. I can't give up an animal. Like my fear is I'll see a stray cat and I'm gonna take it in. I would take every cat in. Right. Same with
well,
dogs.
it's we want to be able to help as many as we can, right?
Yeah.
And having our home available to be able to help them is more, I don't know, knowing at the end of and whenever I'm like 80 or whatnot, and I'm like, think of like the hundreds of different cats that I helped get adopted
Yeah, that's
versus like that
awesome, man.
might not ever get that chance. That's cool to me.
Yeah. Yeah, yesterday I gave a donation to Make a Wish, and I was like, "Yes, I'm a good person." That's all I got, and it was because they were giving me a gift, and I didn't trust the company, so I gave the money somewhere else. So it wasn't even out of the kindness of my heart. But yeah, no,
That's pretty good.
I can't do that stuff in the sense of I would become way too attached. I'm too into animals in that regard. So good for you on doing that. But not to completely sideline it just because we've already done an hour plus. But how'd you get into video games? Because I know we are gamers. So I know you
Mm.
talk about you and your dad were pretty close with video games. My dad was the opposite. He hated video games.
Yeah, I remember you saying
Yeah.
that.
How'd that work out, Dad?
Yeah, I mean, when the day I was born, um, my mom, well, I guess like less than a month later was Christmas, so on like November 29th. My mom bought my dad a Super Nintendo like on the Christmas after I was
Wow.
born. I was like, gonna stay home with the kids from time to time. You could just put one on your lap and
Yeah.
play some Street Fighter or whatnot. So, getting older, like from like 3 years old, I have a photo of like having a Super Nintendo controller in my hands playing with
Wow.
my dad. Like, obviously it was unplugged because he didn't actually want to let me play.
Of
So
course.
how I used to babysit my nieces and nephews too. Like, oh, great job, you killed that guy. Yeah, I did. Your controller's not plugged in, but you did
Idiot.
it.
Yeah. Idiot.
um, growing up, we didn't actually have a lot of consoles. Like we got parents weren't the wealthiest when I was growing up. They both actually worked at Tim Hortons.
Oh wow.
Um, they gave me as good of a life as they could, but I didn't get all the extra things.
Right.
So um, I remember like when I was, I think it was like 9 or 10. That's when like Nintendo 64 came out. My dad's dad he was a wealthy man, so
Really?
he would come down and be like, "Hey, what do you want?" And like we'd go to Walmart, and I'd be like, "I want a Nintendo 64," and he's just like, "Okay, what other games you want with it?" And like he would just buy me like
Wow.
12 different games. So kind of started from there, and then I didn't really get into like online games until RuneScape came out, and then me and my dad and my brother
Let me tell you,
actually
Dave,
all
you're
played
you're
RuneScape
really
together.
dating yourself here. When
Well, it's
RuneScape, I
it's not
remember when it
good.
came out too. I think I was like in fourth grade when it came out. So,
I think Classic came out in '99, and then RuneScape
oh,
2
okay,
came
never
out
mind
in
then. Wow.
like oh 3. I might be dating that wrong. Maybe it was RuneScape 2 that came out in '99.
I didn't
Either
know there
way,
was a two.
my dad, like we had dial-up internet, right? So
Yeah.
me, my dad, and my brother all trying to take turns on one computer with dial-up. So my mom's trying to make a phone call. That was like the
Wow.
start, because then my dad is like, "That's it. We're getting another computer and we're getting real internet." So that,
Yeah,
because
dude,
I
my
remember one time
go
he had
ahead.
to log off because my mom needed to make a phone call, and he was so freaking mad because he was in the middle of doing something in RuneScape, and that was it. That was it.
That's funny. Yeah, I never had that. So I started from so as I said, my parents were very anti games because we were truthfully we were good at sports to the point where like I'm not like we were ever gonna go pro or anything, but it was like if we were to focus on those sports, I think we could have taken it somewhere. I was not that person. I liked video games too much. In fact, I remember the video game that got me into video games, which was Star Fox Adventures on the
Hmm.
GameCube.
Hmm.
So I went from my whole life, like from basically to like birth to second grade, I would say, was handheld games like Game Boy Color,
Game
I
Boys, yeah.
PSP. It was like whoa, but the Xbox came out when I was in second grade, I would say, or no, probably came out when I was in fourth grade, the 360. So just to give you an idea, I didn't get the Xbox till I was a junior in high school. So that's how deprived I was. I only had a GameCube because my parents were like, you have to have straight A's to get like the console. Your boy wasn't
Yep.
doing that. No, the three of us weren't doing that, right? So I was very behind on video games. I think that was my parents' way of trying to get me to grow out of it in a sense. You know,
Okay.
like be
Yeah.
like, hey, you're just going to focus on sports because that's all you can do. Because we know you're not getting straight A's. Thanks, mom and dad. So I just remember I finally got my 360 because I got into honors English. Now I don't know if you guys have like CP honors AP in Canada, but
We don't have honors like the way they do it. There's like you're either in a university level course or you're in a college level
gotcha.
course or you're in a remedial level. So like
Yeah.
that's how they do it there.
So the way I kind of finagled it with my parents was I got into honors because I was in CP all through high school, right? I get to honors English, right? And then I looked at my teacher, like I get the Xbox, I'm like, yo, teach, can you bump me up to AP because I think I can do it? And she's like, yeah, go for it. And then with that, I got the PS4 that came out. So I got a 360 and a PS4 like within a year, right? So that's how I
Jeez.
finagled it.
Hmm.
So, and
Hmm.
then that's
I like
when,
that.
yeah, that's when I started. That's when I really got into gaming, uh, because now it was more than just. I always liked video games, but once I figured out like, oh, there's achievements and it's not just a linear story anymore. Like, there's more you can do. That's when I
Hmm.
kind of got into it, where I was like, oh, this could be. And then I watched the Scene Anners video. I don't know if you know who Scene Anners is, but my brother showed me that, and I was like, guys are doing this for a living, and that's when I kind of made the
Oh
decision that
yeah.
this is what I want to do. So it's not working, but I have fun with it. Yeah, again, I talked about it with Matt, but if I didn't have the job that I had now, I know my life would be very different, obviously, where I don't think I could do this. But I mean, I have so much fun with it. That's really the only reason that I keep up with it. And
Sure.
I'm very
Yeah.
routine, so I like if my routine's messed up, like when my internet's fucked, that's when I start getting. I'm like, oh man,
Guilty.
it's throwing off my routine, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I see it. But that's my story of gaming. So now you're 32 and you're still gaming. And like, was there ever like what was the moment where you're like, this is gonna be like a everyday thing, you know?
I don't know if I knew there was like gonna be a moment, but I remember. So like my progression through games was kinda, I'd say, similar to yours. Like I got the PlayStation 2, then PlayStation 3 came out, and that's when Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the original Call of Duty Modern Warfare came out. So Call of Duty 4.
Yeah.
Um, Started playing that, and four of my closest friends, we all got a PS3 on the exact same day,
Oh,
and we all started playing together, and we're like, let's game battle, and we all got seeking that like rank up in on this game battles ladder against people was like I'd go to high school, finish my classes. We're home 3 o'clock, guys. We're game battling from 3 till 9:30 p.m. Then we're gonna practice afterwards, like like that.
oh, did we lose Dave?
Been
Ooh.
doing that for years, and there was
Eh,
World of Warcraft. That
Dave, take me
what?
back. Take me back a minute because you lagged out for a second. So
Oh shit! Did
game
I? Okay.
battles. No, you're good. Game battles, and then what?
Um, Game battles. I don't remember what I was saying. Uh,
You were talking about the progression. So you went from game battles with your friends, home at three
oh,
o'clock.
game battles. Yeah, game battles. 3 o'clock till 9 o'clock. Like that lasted for the next 4 or 5 Call of Duties, right? And
Right.
that was like what we'd play on the side of World of Warcraft. So we had like a very aggressive rating progression guild. So
Right.
like we again like it's all about trying to get on those ladders, get those numbers.
Yeah, you
It
played
was
like the
really
hard
addictive.
games. You played the ones that actually you have to put some time in. Like I was not really playing those. I was like, let me get all the achievements in the Modern Warfare campaign, and then I'm good. Like I actually played very little multiplayer because my parents wouldn't pay for live. you know?
I think I got lucky in that regard because my dad paid for live because he wanted to watch me game battle. Like
Right.
he would literally sit there and watch me play for
Really?
four
Wow.
hours. Yeah,
Yeah, dude, our
which is
parents are very
cool.
different. Now, here's a question for you, and I think the answer is going to be no. But did you have the kind of parents where you like, Dad, Call of Duty's coming out today? Can I take school off? Did you have those parents?
Um, I guess I never even really needed to say anything to him. I just would not go in that day. Like, um, but like, so for me, I was kind of lucky. My friend owned this Jumbo Video, so it's a video store here,
Yeah.
but it's also a microplay. So he would do tournaments in his store every time a Call of Duty would come out the night before release.
Oh, that's
So
sick.
we'd have like 100 people in this like microplay. Literally, we would all bring in our TVs, so we'd have like 8 to 10 TVs, and we're landing 2v2 tournaments in Search and Destroy, and the winning two people would get their pre-ordered copy of Call of Duty for free.
Oh, that's
So
really cool.
so
Wow.
that's how he drew a lot. Like he was only like 16, 17 at the time, and it was his parents' business. He now runs it. He's the one who was driving a lot of business, like at such a
That was
young age,
smart.
because
Good for him.
we'd get like every gamer in London. We'd have Facebook groups going on about it. Like everyone would be shit talking each other. It'd be
So
awesome.
that's where your
I ne-
competitive nature comes from.
I never lost the tournament. So I got like funny enough, like Jesse Eggleton was like a semi-finalist in one of the tournaments, and he got beat by some dude, and then me and my buddy Jake. It always looked bad. Everyone thought we cheated because Jake was the one who owned this, or his parents owned the store. He was the one running it, and it was me and him, and we won every single tournament. So it's like people stopped coming after a while, but I got my copy for free. I never had to pay for Call of Duty, so
That is nice.
that was always nice.
Wow.
It's
Yeah.
weird now that I actually have to pay for one. I don't like that.
Yeah. Well,
Let me play
Games
for it.
Pass.
Yeah.
My viewers are starting to get mad at me for promoting it so much,
Let you
but
plug Games Pass.
I
Yeah.
live for that thing. The deals I get, dude, they're sweet. So
If if I had internet that allowed me to download a game fast, I would probably have Game Pass. I don't know
yeah,
why I wouldn't. But I don't. I've also been that kind of person that I play same 4 or 5 games like my whole life. Like I've played every Call of Duty through
yeah,
and through. I've played World of Warcraft since I didn't play in Classic. I actually played in the second expansion. I've played every expansion since then.
wow,
StarCraft is probably my single game that I put the most hours in and was the most competitive. Like actually could have made something
really,
of it if
wow,
I continued. Um, but I got beat by a 16-year-old kid in an online tournament, and I lost my ever-loving mind and punched a hole in my monitor. So that was the end of my StarCraft life
yeah,
there. And yeah, pretty much those three: Counter Strike and League of Legends. Like
yeah. The
that's all I play.
yeah. I'm someone that likes trying new things, and I guess that kind of comes from being a content creator. But uh, like that's why I like something like the Games Pass, and honestly, I would like any other one too, just because I like trying new things for $10 a month.
Mhm.
So
Right.
for me, it works. But yeah, I'm one of those people. It might just be my ADD. I can't play one game for a while. The fact that I played Siege as long as I did is wild. I've never played a game for that long, and I'm
See, I'm
still
like
not
the
good at it.
opposite. I like mastering as like I don't like being bad at something. Like playing Siege and not being good triggers me
Yeah,
out of like you have no
I,
idea. I'm
I
not bad at
yeah, like I'll be the first one to tell you. I know how to play the game. I'm a terrible shot. I'm terrible at shooting now. And I don't know why. I think people have just gotten better. It's much different than when we first played.
Oh, it's for sure.
Yeah.
Like
So for
playing
me,
Call of Duty now, like these kids, like they're fucking hopped up on G Fuel. Like I feel like I have beads of sweat rolling off my face
little
just to play that
sidetrack. How
game
do you
now.
feel about G Fuel? Because to me, that's basically pre-workout, right?
It's just an energy drink,
Yeah.
really. Like I mean, dude, there was a time where I drank 3 white sugar-free monsters every single day. So like I can't harp on G
Yeah.
Fuel.
Fair.
I tried it and it tastes like ass. So I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't really like it. But
Oof. I always think that that's just so bad for you.
absolutely.
Kenny used to dry scoop. Oh well, that was pre-workout, but I think Kenny would dry scoop G Fuel. You know, he'd do that. But what were we just talking about? Oh yeah, how kids have just adapted. Like yeah, there's no way I can't keep up in Siege anymore. I know I can't, but I try and abuse the rank system by like, oh, you can keep winning, but to Matt's point, once you get to a certain point and you're losing more than you're winning, it's like, why am I still playing this? So,
Mhm.
like, could I get to platinum by just continuously playing? But my problem is I'd have to stop playing everything else. I'd have to only have Siege installed for me to really focus on it. Because as I said to you last night when we were playing COD, just for me to transition from COD to Siege, it's night and day for me. Like it takes me a while. Maybe it's my
Mhm.
age. Maybe my age is showing. I can't
I mean,
adapt.
I do it just fine. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not. I play too many different games that aren't shooters, and that really screws me
For
up.
sure.
So, yeah, that's just my mindset. But I like Siege. I like the versatility of it. I like how you can try new things and see what works. Whereas like
Well,
other games
again,
you
like
can't.
I was like a big Counter Strike guy, so like playing Siege kind of like listen, if everybody in our Discord said they wanted to go and play Counter Strike tomorrow and quit Siege altogether, I would probably rather do that just because,
Yeah,
again, I don't like being bad at things. So, like this whole learning process for Siege has been so frustrating
I
for
believe
me.
it.
Because,
Yeah,
but
and
no, I think I'm
yeah.
picking it up okay for.
No, you guys do great in comparison to like I think most people trying to do the learn curve. Plus, you have like Matt, Grant, Jason, and I to like kind of help a little bit. Again, I can't help you with shooting. You're already a good shot. Now it's just like understanding your surroundings,
Learning the
right?
map and knowing
Yeah,
what can happen around me at any given time.
exactly.
So
I think.
it's starting to
Yeah.
get more fun because I wasn't having fun for the longest time. But now I'm actually like, hey, I'm smart at video games. I just need to adapt to playing this game.
Yeah, Siege is
Which
definitely a learning curve that people don't realize. I think Shroud said it recently. He's like, the learning curve for Siege is insane, but once you get there, it's fun. So that's why I always will love that game, despite the problems that it has. Thanks, Ubisoft.
thanks for last night, Ubisoft.
Yeah, the last night was a shit show. So that's why I'll always go back to Siege. And I do feel like the abuse that I kind of do is like I know the game very well, so I know that if there's a new player coming in, they're screwed. But as I said, I'm a terrible shot at video games. I'm the first one to tell you I'm the most consistently inconsistent player. So like one day I'll drop 10, the next game I'll drop 2. That's what I mean. So and I'm like that in every video game. But that's why I'm a content creator, not a professional player. But I will say, out of all the games, Siege is the only one that I actually care about my rank, and you know that. That's the only one where I'll yell at someone if they're playing stupidly, and I'll have my moments, obviously. But like last night, like I'm fine with pushing something if I know Jason and Grant are behind me. If it's Matt and E playing Cali, I'm not doing it. I will always take
No,
that to the game.
edit that out. Edit
No,
that out.
I'm keeping that in. But yeah, so
Put
that's
it in the title. Matt needs Cali.
100%. Yeah. Um, but that, as I said, like that's the one game where I care because it's such a fun game to me, and that's the one where I'll get competitive over. But like other games, for some reason, I don't know if it's my brain or whatever, but I just can't take them seriously. Does that make sense?
Sure.
I
Yeah.
just can't lock in on like CS:GO or something. Yeah.
Which is weird to me because they're very similar games. Like, you
Yeah,
can
I
lock
can't
in on
lock
one.
in.
Why can't you lock in on the other?
I
For
don't
me,
know.
it's just rank. Like you asked me to play a rank game. This is my time. I'm going to give it 110%. If you
Yeah.
don't do that for me, I'm going to flame you. I'm sorry. That's
It
just what
makes
happened.
sense, and I realize that when I play Siege, like that's how I am. But like the difference between Siege and CS is CS I think takes a lot more skill, whereas Siege takes a lot more knowledge. So like if you're not doing something, if you're doing something stupid in Siege, that's when I'm gonna get mad. If you go 0-10 but you're using util, I'm fine with that. Like that's just you had a rough game. But if you're like me last night, pushing someone in a 3v1 on defense, you should never do that. I don't know why I did it, but like that's the kind of shit where I'm like, that was so stupid of me. So Siege to me is more of an IQ game, whereas CS it's like who's the better shot and who's in better positioning. Does that make sense? Tell me if I'm wrong,
Sure. Yeah.
obviously, because
No,
you've
no.
played
I
both.
mean, I think there are times where CS, like I've always been. I mean, I'm not a bad shot. I'm still a pretty good shot, but like my IQ is usually how I'll beat people.
Right.
Like I'm just smarter.
So for
Same
instance,
with League.
so think about this, Dave. This is what I mean by my brain just doesn't compute for some reason. Think of how much util I use in Siege. You will never see me buy a flash grenade in CS. That's what I mean. Like for some reason, my brain just can't do it. I think it's
Okay.
autism.
Okay. It might be.
So that's what I mean. Like for some reason, Siege to me, and maybe it's just because of the past and what we've done in Siege. That's why I take it so seriously. Whereas, like, if a new game came out tomorrow, I don't think I could take it seriously, for some reason.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but that's just the way I am.
We'll get you on the World of Warcraft grind at some point.
I played World of Warcraft. I played it for probably about a month, and then they said, "Oh, you have to pay for this every month." And I was like, "Ma, purchase it," because that was like I'm fifth grade or whatever. And she was like, "I'm not paying for this monthly." So after that, I was like, I don't like the subscription-based games, but I don't mind paying a subscription for like Games Pass, you know. So if something like World of Warcraft came to the Games Pass, 100% I'm downloading it. But I'm not. I just can't afford it every month, Dave.
Yes, you can, but we'll let it go.
So, all right, buddy, we just did an hour and a half. It goes by pretty quickly, unless there's anything
does.
else you want to talk about.
No, you got any more questions for me?
Man, I wish I had the time to do viewer questions because I'm sure some people, I don't know how they are with fitness. I know some guys and girls in there do care about the fitness questions, but I think you kind of nailed everything that I had to ask. So if there's any more, I'll ask you personally and I'll relay it to whoever needs it. But
We can always do a follow up after if
absolutely. Well, hopefully we can start doing the big podcast where it's like you, me, Matt, do big ones, and then we can start doing those a little more because I think my mom's starting to get a little tired of just politics.
Burnt out.
Yeah, you know, it's tough because you're forcing someone on camera, and some people just don't like being on camera. I mean, my mom's used to it now, but and of course, my mom's very smart when it comes to politics. She could talk politics all day, but when it comes to like the gaming stuff, I can tell she doesn't care. So when I have to do gaming articles, she's like, oh, but yeah, but. We got a big UFC tonight, which is what I'm going to start getting ready for. I got to go do some shopping, do that. So, again, hopefully I'll see you there.
Shopping for? Hopefully not a lot of snacks.
Maybe some snacks. You never know. I got to get my pint. I mean, I got to for UFC 300. This is a big deal.
Half baked. Okay.
Yeah, half baked. Maybe I'll do 2 tonight for fish food, or do I do 3 for 300?
Please don't do 3 for 300.
So, well, either way, thank you for doing this. I know this one was a little bit longer in the making, but again, we will definitely do it again. So, do you have any? I don't know if you want to promote anything. You don't really do any social media, so you don't have much to promote.
So, no.
So just tune into the streams and you'll see Dave more.
Watch Pancake stream.
All right, Dave. Thank you.